So TED is an international conference that was started about 30 years ago on ideas worth spreading, and have gotten really popular online. It's probably one of the most popular sort of places to find ideas worth spreading or great ideas, and they ask speakers to share the talks of their lives. We do a local franchise of that, and we've been searching in Trinidad and the Trinidad diaspora to find people who are doing innovative and interesting things. So we host an annual conference, TEDx Port of Spain.
How easy is it to find those speakers?
Not easy at all. Actually, we have a lot of talent connected to Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people complain about us not fostering indie talent locally. So we deliberately mix people from the international sort of diaspora with locals. So for example, this year we have somebody coming from Australia. She's Trini, Jolena Sinanan, and she's questioning that whole social media and how she's an anthropologist, and she did a study in Trinidad, and she did a PhD, and I was at the University in Australia, and she's really questioning how social media affects our society, etc. So she's doing some interesting stuff. We have Margaret Rose, who's a lawyer, local lawyer, who does procurement and corruption, and she lives between the UK and Trinidad and Tobago, but she practices predominantly in the Caribbean. In fact, she practices all around the world. So all of our speakers are quite well established. Some of them are very, very local.
You speak about some of them being very local on the monitor. We just had Keegan Taylor and Rondell Benjamin with the Stick Fighters,
yeah.
the Stick Fighters prayer, I believe.
Yeah. Well, they sort of did a talk on what stick fighting was about. So stick fighter is one of those innovations that a lot of people in Trinidad don't even know about. It's an indigenous thing to Trinidad, and people don't understand the culture behind it. If you go to the Gael, there's a whole culture around that for a lot of people would be like Christopher Columbus exploration. It'd be a new experience, you know. So we're trying to unearth the richness of Trinidad and Tobago by getting speakers to do a compelling 15-minute talk that is well refined. They've been coached, and they deliver that idea worth spreading. So that.
Who are the kind of people that you would normally find at a TEDx Talk or a TEDx Port of Spain talk?
Okay. So one of the things we've done is we've collected a lot of data on people who are attending the talk. The biggest demographic is women 25 to 35, so that's an appeal to some people. And then we have 25 to 35 men, and I can go through these statistics. But it's basically people who are curious, a lot of people who've see the possibilities of Trinidad and Tobago. They're possibility thinkers kind of people. They're people who are saying that things are this way, but they don't have to be this way. In our recent survey of the TEDx Port of Spain community, people use our conference as their annual reset, their annual way of starting over the year. So that some people say that conference is getting me to next year because it's letting me see. We're demonstrating that there are other people, there's a different story to what you're getting in the everyday news with people doing great work, and we're trying to celebrate that work that they're doing and showing people how valuable that work is.
And I guess it's also an important place of renewal, like you said, but for people who sometimes think they're on an island, that I cannot be the only one who's thinking some of these things.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and one of the best stories I like telling is that there was a girl who moved back here. She never lived in Trinidad. Both her parents are Trini. Moved to Trinidad, and the first year she moved there, she came to TEDx, and she's a consultant. And she said, if it wasn't for TEDx, I wouldn't have any business. She got most of her business from coming through TEDx. We had a speaker who came one year, and she said, if there was a community like this when I was in Trinidad, I would never have left Trinidad. So we get those kind of anecdotal stories, but it's hard for us to track them. And I'm sure there are others out there, and we've thought about some ways to try and capture those stories. And we're going to probably be doing that at this year's conference, which we themed Reality Revisited.
Going actually to that theme, what is the idea, what's the thought process behind the theme this year?
So the thought process is that reality is often how we see things. There's a whole lot going on underneath that. So our first perception is usually wrong. So we're asking all our speakers to take something that people take as a general assumption and unpack that for them. So go a little bit deeper. That's the general thinking with that theme of let's revisit what we think are truisms, things that we take for granted as that's the truth or that's the fact. Like last year we had Naima Moakel, I don't remember her other name, but she was a child of the Jamaat movement, and she grew up as a child in that movement. And she told a story from her perspective as a child growing up in that movement and said, and sort of brought empathy to the other side of that coin. It's not a story that we often get in Trinidad. Often we villainize that group and we don't get the richness of what was happening or who was affected and how they were affected. And there were a lot of people affected, including the people involved in the coup.
Actually humanizing and bringing faces and names.
And names, exactly, yeah. And she called a lot of names, and her name is there. And now she's one of our speakers. It's online, it's on our website, TEDxPortofSpain.com. And it's on YouTube forever, that people can go and hear that version of the story, which is not a story that A, people want to sympathize with, B, people don't want to hear it. So part of it is that we are trying to make people feel uncomfortable with their reality, because we get these myopic views that we need to challenge ourselves. And people are not open enough. People need to be open to different realities, different ideas. So I think that I have a belief until somebody presents evidence that counters that belief. I don't know how many people hold that.
I'm wondering how many people are open, and I ask that question in terms of the people who come to the TEDx talks. You say there are people who come for a reset button, people who come to connect, make linkages, network. I'm wondering if it's the same set of people who are coming over and over, preaching to the converted sometimes, or do you find more people coming out and fresh faces?
Yeah, so one of the things that I have enjoyed watching is that the first year we started with 100 people, and I knew a lot of the people in that crowd. So it was a very small, it was mostly, let's say, the ad agency kind of crowd. Over the years, it's drastically changed. And we think that we get about a 60%, 55% new attendees every year, because I can track that. And I have been tracking a lot of that. So that's another thing. That's not something we do in Trinidad, is track data. Like, I have been tracking data from day one. And when I go to sponsors and I connect to people and I can tell them, this is what happened, people are saying, no, but how do you have this data? And it's because I've been tracking it from day one. And we just start thinking like that as a society. So the people who are attending are generally people who love TED, and they love TED.com. They tend to watch TED videos frequently. And then they like what we're doing in the space where we're getting thought leaders to make their ideas more understandable, more reachable. One of the things, we did a survey this year, and we learned that there are a couple of teachers in the space who are using our videos in the classroom. We didn't know that. If we didn't do the survey, we wouldn't have known that. And those are the kind of things that we are really trying to get at. There are certain points that are low-hanging fruit that we can transform Trinidad and Tobago if we had the political will to do so. So we are sort of doing that education piece to slowly get people to the point where they're willing to do that kind of shift, that kind of movement.
And I know Talk City 91.1 FM uses some of the TED pieces and actually plays them, because you can use it just for the audio content as well. Yeah. So in terms of like to plant some of those seeds, hopefully they germinate in the hearts and minds of people.
So they're good jump-off points for additional conversation. So our most popular talk is by Afro Raymond, who talks about corruption. And honestly, if you take some of his ideas quite seriously, we could solve quite a bit of the corruption problems. We don't know, we have no idea if anybody in the ministry or anybody in any kind of anti-corruption agency group is using that information. We have no idea. But that's the kind of thing that we're thinking, okay, let's get the people who are the experts on this, let them distill their talk, and hopefully we can begin to shift certain things. One of the things that we learned that we didn't know about is a lot of foreign companies that are coming to Trinidad to do business first go to our website to see, okay, who's been on the TEDx Port of Spain stage? Are they an expert in something we want to work with? So we're getting that kind of credibility now, and we're getting to be that annual conference that people don't want to miss.
And that brings me to the question, because you spoke about Afro Raymond. We're now seeing Attila Springer on, well, we just saw Attila Springer on the monitor. Afro Raymond is also on the hub, the TEDx, the TEDx itself, as opposed to just a franchise. He's also on that. Yeah, I'm wondering, how does that interaction take place?
So I'll talk about that a little bit. So we are sort of top 1% events in the world. So there are 13,000 events around the world. We've had 2 talks. TED looks at all the talks and then decides, can this go on the TED.com website? We've had 2 of those. Only 1% of TEDx events around the world have had that. We've had 2 of those. Because of that, we have like 1 point something million views online. We're one of the best ones in the Caribbean. There aren't many. As far as I know, the ones in Jamaica and Barbados they no longer exist, and we are leading the Caribbean in terms of TEDx events, except maybe in like some of the Spanish-speaking countries, like Puerto Rico, I think has a good one, and I think Dominican Republic has a good one. But we are the leading TEDx event in the Caribbean, and we've been trying to make it very intentional. We're growing slowly. We are very specific about how and who we partner with around ethics. And we're just trying to shift the space and shift the thinking and get people to find that tribe of people who are saying, you know what, Trinidad can be improved and it can be a little bit better.
Now, you spoke of the demographics of people who come to the talks. I'm wondering about that of the speakers, because Verna St. Rose Graves is on right now on the monitor. We had the person behind one of the people behind the highway, the route movement. Yeah. He was on as well. So who are we looking for? Gillian Lucky was there as well. Yeah. So is there archetypal kind of speaker, or how does that go?
So we have a team of about 5 people that I'm not on the team, so sometimes I struggle to get speakers on it. I have to fight to get some speakers on, which is fun. It's my project, but I struggle. But I set it up like that because I think you need an objective group who can debate about, is this an idea worth spreading? And we try to hit, in every conference, we try to be as broad as possible and hit as many different avenues. So we try to do somebody from business, someone from design, somebody from technology, from like a sociology kind of thing, sort of an activist. So we try to hit as many domains or buckets as possible, while at the end of the day, we're creating a show. So we do all those things. So we have performers at our events. This year we're playing with some interesting ideas for performers, which they're still being worked out. But on October 6th, when you attend the conference, we want to make sure that everybody has a speaker that they're looking forward to. Everybody can resonate with one speaker.